Emma grew up in a world where she was always the shadow to her older sister Victoria's spotlight. From the time they were children, their parents made it painfully clear which daughter they considered special. Victoria's report cards earned her cars and parties. Emma's identical achievements earned her little more than a polite nod. When Victoria was accepted into Yale, there was a lavish celebration with hundreds of guests. When Emma got into MIT, her father barely looked up from his newspaper, dismissing it as a safety school. Over the years, Emma learned that nothing she accomplished would ever be enough, so she stopped trying to make them see her. Instead, she quietly built her life on her own terms, far from the constant comparisons. After graduation, she moved to San Francisco to work in technology. Her family assumed she had some small low-level job. They never asked what she really did, and Emma never bothered to correct them. Holidays were always the same. Victoria arriving in luxury cars dripping in designer clothes, her parents glowing with pride as they introduced her husband Bradley, a wealthy hedge fund manager. Emma was the quiet one at the back of the room, the afterthought no one noticed. The divide only grew when Victoria's wedding came. A lavish $300,000 event where Emma wasn't even asked to be a bridesmaid. Their mother explained it would look unbalanced to have Emma stand among Victoria's glamorous friends. So Emma sat alone in the back row and slipped away before the party ended. When Victoria announced her pregnancy, their mother began planning an extravagant baby shower at the Riverside Country Club, an exclusive venue with sky-high initiation fees and years-long waiting lists. On the weekly family video call, Victoria made sure to highlight just how exclusive the event would be. Looking directly at Emma, she gave a half-hearted invitation, making it sound more like a warning than a welcome. Their mother quickly added that perhaps Emma should just send a gift instead, since the club has certain standards. Emma smiled and said she would attend. The smirk on Victoria's face showed she didn't believe it. On the day of the shower, Emma arrived wearing a simple sundress, her hair tied back plainly. She parked her modest rental car far from the luxury vehicles lined up at the valet and walked into the grand ballroom. The scene was everything her family loved: lavish floral arrangements, string quartets, champagne flowing freely. Dozens of guests filled the tables, most of them Victoria's friends, Bradley's colleagues' wives, and their mother's social circle. Emma quietly took a seat in the back, ignored by cousins who barely remembered her. The gift opening began, and Victoria basked in the attention, unwrapping $1,000 strollers and designer cribs, while their mother gleefully announced the price tags for all to hear. Emma's modestly wrapped package, a handmade baby blanket from a small San Francisco shop, sat untouched on the table. Eventually, her mother noticed her presence and loudly called her to the front, making sure everyone turned to stare at the plain, underdressed younger sister. Emma endured Victoria's half-hearted hug, her mother's forced smile, and the condescending questions from Victoria's friends about her little tech job. Victoria, sensing an opportunity to humiliate her sister, raised her voice so the entire room could hear. She bragged about the possibility of joining an even more exclusive club with staggering fees, then smirked as she told Emma it was probably more than she made in several years. The room went silent, everyone watching for Emma's reaction. She stayed calm, agreeing quietly that it was very impressive. But when Victoria pushed harder, mocking Emma's station in life and saying she didn't even belong in a place like Riverside, Emma finally gave a cryptic smile and said she had actually been there earlier that morning to discuss business. Her mother dismissed it with a laugh, trying to steer the conversation away, but Emma simply picked up her purse and walked out. Behind her, laughter and whispers filled the ballroom as Victoria and her friends mocked her retreat. Emma drove away, but not far. At a nearby coffee shop, she waited until her phone rang at exactly 10:47 a.m. The call was from Richard Morrison, the general manager of Riverside Country Club, a man Emma herself had hired 6 years earlier. Calmly, he asked her to confirm the cancellations of several memberships, Victoria and Bradley's, her parents, her aunts. Emma confirmed. Richard warned that it would cause quite a scene, especially since Victoria was hosting an event at that very moment. Emma told him to proceed immediately. Minutes later, while Emma sat quietly in her car, her phone began to buzz with frantic calls from her mother Victoria and Bradley. She ignored them all driving back to San Francisco, with the phone vibrating endlessly in her cup holder. By Sunday evening, she had dozens of missed calls and messages. But Emma didn't respond. She knew exactly what was happening back at the club, the very scene she had orchestrated with precision. On Monday morning, Emma finally returned one of the dozens of calls answering her mother's desperate voice. Her mother explained in a panic how the country club memberships had been abruptly canceled in the middle of Victoria's shower, humiliating the entire family. Guests had watched as staff escorted them out, leaving Victoria sobbing, her friends whispering, and her mother red with embarrassment. "It must be some mistake," Emma, her mother, pleaded, convinced it was a clerical error or computer glitch. She begged Emma to use her tech skills to fix it. Emma, sitting in the penthouse office of the building she owned in downtown San Francisco, reviewed multi-million-dollar acquisition reports as she listened. Calmly, she told her mother there was no mistake. She had ordered the cancellations herself. The revelation hit like a blow. Her mother stammered, insisting Emma couldn't possibly have such power. That's when Emma told her the truth she had hidden for years. She wasn't working some small job with computers. She had founded a software company at age 23, sold it 3 years later for $800 million, and used the fortune to build a property empire. She now owned 17 luxury clubs and resorts, including Riverside and the Platinum Reserve Club that Victoria had so smugly mentioned. Emma explained she had ordered the cancellation because for once she wanted Victoria to experience the sting of humiliation, the same sting she had lived with for 32 years under their constant dismissals. Her mother tried to plead, insisting that Emma had misunderstood, that the family had always been proud of her. But Emma cut her off. She listed the moments one by one: the ignored report cards, the dismissal of MIT, the humiliation at Victoria's wedding, the cruel mocking at the baby shower. Each memory was a brick in the wall she had built around herself, a wall of resilience. "You never saw me," she told her mother, her voice calm but unshakable. "And that's fine. I don't need your approval. I don't need your pride. I built this life without any of you." The conversation ended with Emma drawing a final line. Their memberships were permanently canceled and their names blacklisted across all her properties. They were not welcome in her world ever. Before hanging up, she added one last sting: the baby gift was still coming, a modest handmade blanket worth $80. "Maybe her daughter will appreciate it someday when she learns that price doesn't equal value," Emma said, before ending the call. Over the following week, the fallout from the baby shower disaster spiraled out of control. Emma's Aunt Patricia sent a frantic email describing the social devastation spreading through their circle. A video of Victoria's public humiliation had gone viral on TikTok, racking up over 1 million views, with comments labeling Victoria spoiled, entitled, and cruel. Bradley's firm worried the scandal might harm his reputation with clients. Patricia begged Emma to undo the blacklist to restore their memberships and help salvage Victoria's standing. Emma deleted the email without replying. Days later, Victoria and Bradley appeared at the lobby of Emma's office tower, demanding to see her. Security escorted them out without incident. When Patricia later tried to threaten Emma with a lawsuit for defamation and emotional distress, Emma's attorney dismissed it outright. Emma had acted entirely within her rights as a property owner. But then, a handwritten letter arrived. It was from Victoria, her words scrawled in shaky handwriting. She begged her sister to reconsider, explaining how the humiliation had ruined her reputation, how her friends mocked her, how Bradley's colleagues whispered behind his back. She admitted she had been cruel at the shower, but pleaded that she hadn't deserved such brutal revenge, especially while pregnant. For the first time, she apologized, asking Emma to lift the blacklist to give her a chance to make things right. Emma read the letter 3 times, then she tucked it into her desk drawer and returned to her work. For her, the apology came too late, and she wasn't convinced it was about remorse. It sounded more like desperation to regain lost status. 2 weeks later, Emma's mother called again, this time from a number Emma didn't recognize. Her voice cracked with panic. Victoria had gone into early labor. The doctors believed stress had triggered it. Though the baby was born healthy, Victoria herself was not. She refused to eat, cried constantly, and wouldn't even hold her daughter. The postpartum depression was severe. Emma listened silently until her mother whispered the baby's name. "They named her Emma," she said. The revelation shook her. For a long time, she said nothing. Her mother begged her to reconsider, to ease the family tension, to stop punishing Victoria now that she was vulnerable. Emma finally responded. She wouldn't lift the blacklist or restore the memberships, but she agreed to use her resources to handle the viral scandal. She promised to have her PR team scrub the videos and control the narrative. "I'm not doing it for you," she told her mother. "I'm doing it for the baby. She doesn't deserve to grow up with her mother's humiliation living online forever." And then Emma added one more promise. She would set up a trust fund worth $5 million for baby Emma to be accessed when she turned 25. It would give the child freedom from the suffocating standards of their family, freedom to live on her own terms. Her mother wept in gratitude, trying again to tell Emma how proud she was. Emma cut her short. "Don't say you're proud of me now. You had 32 years to be proud. You weren't. And that's fine. But don't pretend now." A few days later, Emma received a text message from an unknown number. It was a photo of a newborn baby girl swaddled in a hospital blanket, dark wisps of hair peeking out, tiny fists curled under her chin. The message read, "Her full name is Emma Patricia Chin Thompson. Thank you for the trust fund. Thank you for everything. Victoria." Emma stared at the photo for a long time before forwarding it to her attorney with instructions. The trust fund was to include not just the financial inheritance, but also mandatory financial literacy education beginning at age 12. She wanted her niece to grow up understanding independence and self-worth, lessons Emma had been forced to teach herself in isolation. 3 months later, another package arrived at her office. Inside was a framed photo of baby Emma wearing the handmade blanket Emma had sent to the baby shower. A note in Victoria's handwriting accompanied it. "She sleeps with this every night. It's her favorite. Maybe you were right about price not equaling value. Maybe I was wrong about a lot of things. I'm sorry I didn't see you before. I see you now." Emma set the photo on her desk right beside an old Forbes magazine with her face on the cover. The headline read, "Tech Prodigy Turned Property Mogul: How Emma Built a Billion-Dollar Empire." She had kept that issue for years, though her family had never seen it. They hadn't bothered to look. As the months passed, Emma continued running her empire of 17 luxury properties, acquiring new resorts and building her wealth. Every morning she walked into her office at Riverside Country Club, the very place where she had once been humiliated, now a symbol of the power she had claimed for herself. Her family was permanently banned from setting foot inside, and she didn't waver on that decision. Yet as she looked at the photo of baby Emma each day, she felt a quiet shift within her. For the first time, there was someone in her family she wanted to protect, not for appearances, not for approval, but because the child was innocent of the past. The baby hadn't compared report cards at the dinner table, hadn't sneered at her station in life, hadn't joined in cruel laughter. She was a fresh start, a reminder that cycles could be broken. Still, Emma refused to let her guard down with Victoria or her mother. Their sudden apologies, their claims of pride, all rang hollow after decades of dismissal. She knew what motivated them: reputation, wealth, status. And Emma had no desire to give them access to the world she had built. They had shown her who they were too many times. But for the child, she chose a different path. She had no illusions that money could heal every wound, yet she believed knowledge and independence could give her niece the strength to define her own worth. For the first time in years, Emma felt at peace with her choices. She no longer needed validation, no longer chased the mirage of family approval. She had built her empire from the ground up without them, and now she was choosing deliberately whom she would invest her heart in. Not the ones who had belittled her, but the one who might grow up knowing love without conditions. Looking out from her penthouse window at the San Francisco skyline glittering against the night, Emma realized the lesson her life had taught her. True worth was never measured in applause, price tags, or approval. It was measured in resilience, in self-belief, and in the ability to rise, even when no one else stood by you. And so she smiled not for the billion-dollar empire, not for the magazine covers, but for the baby who carried her name. Because Emma knew that the most valuable legacy she could leave wasn't the properties she owned or the fortune she amassed. It was the lesson that no one else defines your worth, you do. If you found this story moving, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment about what part touched you the most. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life.